Thank you very much, Emily. And good morning, everybody. And thank you for joining me this morning. I'm going to actually start sharing my screen here, and we'll dive right into those two questions here. Hopefully you can see my screen right now. But let's talk about why heat pumps are important to us in this planet, and how do we actually advocate for the market transformation that we need. And let me answer that first question first by asking why heat pumps? Why are they important? And here's a picture on the left-hand side of a heat pump water heater. The right-hand side is a mini split. And these two major appliances in our homes, they account for actually 50% of our home energy use in California. And most of these in California are actually running on gas, methane gas, also known as natural gas. But the great news is that heat pump versions of these appliances shown here can actually be run on electricity. And by powering them with electricity, we can in turn power those by renewable energy, and the result would be that those appliances become zero emission appliances. Another great fact about those appliances is they are super energy efficient, maybe 200 to 300% energy efficient. So let's learn today more about heat pumps and why they are important to our society. And I want to actually take a step back to this picture that was taken by the last of the Apollo missions almost exactly 50 years ago, and talk about the global perspective of why a transition to heat pumps is really vital for our entire planet. As many of you know, at the end of last year, the United Nations held its annual climate gathering called COP26, the Conference of the Parties, 26th time they met, and they did it in Glasgow. And one of the important decisions that was made there was that the then global warming 2.0 as an aspiration, 2.0 centigrade of warming was actually reduced to 1.5 centigrade because we realized 2.0 is just too high. We've got to try to keep global warming to under 1.5. And today we're already at 1.2 degrees of warming. So there's only 0.3 left for us on this planet. And so the delegates there at COP26 did something they've never done before. They decided to address natural gas and methane gas through a pledge, the first international pledge ever on methane emissions. And 111 countries pledged to cut methane use by 30% by 2030. That's only 7.5 years from now to cut 30%. And if we can do this, warming is projected to decrease by 0.2 centigrade by 2050. And so remember, I told you we have only 0.3 centigrade of room. So 0.2 is a massive contribution. Now, how can we here in the Bay Area, how can Bay Area communities do our share to cut our methane emissions by 30%? How can we stop burning methane in the next 7.5 years? And so I want to give you a little example of the city of Lafayette, where I come from. And back in 2016, we actually voted to join MCE, which is a community choice energy provider that competes with PG&E for electricity generation. So MCE does the electricity generation procurement. PG&E still handles our transmission distribution to my house and does my billing, so I get my bill from PG&E. But the procurement allowed MCE to go out and buy more renewable energy, and at that time it was 68% carbon free. But if we fast forward just 5 years, it's amazing that by 2020 the procurement had gotten up to the point of being 98 to 100% clean energy right here in Lafayette for our residents. And if we look at the 2020 power content label for MCE to see where the power is coming from, renewables was 61%, large hydro 36%, nuclear 1.1%, in total 98.6%. And for some others who decided to opt up to the 100% deep green program, like I did, I'm getting my electricity in my house from 50% solar and 50% wind from California. So this is just amazing that we're 25 years earlier than the 2045 SB 100 by Jerry Brown target of being 100%. We're practically there 25 years early, and that's wonderful. Now, let me share with you this chart, which is Lafayette's greenhouse gas emissions at a residential level, to just show you some trends over the years. And if you look at from 2005 to 2015, the far left, you'll see that in light green, the amount of GHG emissions that come from electricity in light green. And blue is the amount of GHG emissions coming from homes from natural gas. And you can see that pretty much over the last 15 years, that ratio where gas is double the footprint of electricity has been the prevailing trend. But as I just mentioned to you, since we've gone already down to 99% carbon free on our electricity, the green bar is actually coming down and almost to nothing already. And so the problem is really, how do we get rid of the blue bar, the gas bar in the residential homes? And that's what we're here today to talk about. How do we get families to push that bar down in your cities and my cities as well? So turning to my home then, or our homes, where do we burn natural gas? In this photo, you can see my gas furnace, gas water heater, gas fireplace, gas cooktop. These are a few of the things that they exist in my house, and we're going to focus on the top two in today's session. So let me now address and switch gears to talk about how can we advocate for market transformation if these heat pumps are so good for society? What are we going to do to help accelerate them? And actually, it comes down to a new mantra, which many of you have heard, which is simply two words: electrify everything. If we can electrify all of the appliances in our home, our cars and everything, and we know that electricity will be clean by 2045, if not already, then that is a way that we're going to be able to combat global warming meaningfully. It's great to know that cost-effective solutions exist for heating and cooling our home, for their induction electric cooktops, electric vehicles, and so forth. We'll dive into a lot of these over the course of today's session. But what's important for California to meet our climate targets by 2050, in particular, as I mentioned, 50% of our energy use is in hot water heating and in HVAC. So this chart shows the studies that for California, on the left-hand side, space heating. You can see most of our space heating today around 2020 is in natural gas. And in the next 15 years, by 2035, we are going to have to transition to high efficiency heat pumps in order to meet our 2050 goals. So if we're on the right-hand side for water heating, it's pretty much the same story. We use mostly natural gas today, but over just the next 15 years, it means that almost every single water heater out there, natural gas must be replaced. We want to replace it aggressively with high efficiency heat pumps in order to make our goals. So that's a very steep ask, but that's what we're learning to do here, and why this is an exciting session today to see how we're going to do it. Now, cities have been very helpful in accelerating this curve and calling for the change. The city of Berkeley, I want to call a shout out to, because they were the first city in California back in 2019 to pass an ordinance to ban natural gas in new construction, in new buildings. No more natural gas, only electric buildings. And that already went into effect a couple years ago. But since they did that only 2.5 years ago, there have been 47 other cities in Northern California that have adopted these electrification ordinances. And so that's been a terrific example from them. So in summary, why heat pumps? They're highly energy efficient, and they can be powered by the zero emission grid. And what can you do? What can we all do to advocate for the market transformation we need? Just two words: electrify everything, and use every opportunity we can to speak in support of the all-electric transition. Because why? Our planet is counting on us. California, if we can do this quicker than others, we can set an example for the world, as we have done in the past, and I hope we'll continue to do. So thank you for having me today, and I look forward to answering questions in the chat and being with everybody this morning. So Emily, back to you.